What is up, y'all? Philly Fly Show checking in here, kicking in at Railway Production Studios, and we back for another week. Last week, after 4 straight weeks of just fire after fire picks, the Philly Fly Show cut out and had a bad week. Not such a week where 50% sucks. You're probably gonna, if you're gonna be positive money, you're gonna be just over what you put in, but 50%, man. Gotta do a little better than that. But this is a great night of fights. Don't even care that I got it wrong. First off, gotta say, Ricky Simone, Adrian Yanez was definitely fight of the night. I don't know how it doesn't win fight of the night. That thing was a banger, and I forgot my boy Adrian's hands were that good. Like, that good. So, shout out to that. I don't think it was a draw. My buddy's trying to point me toward that Adrian totally won that fight. I'm not gonna go on the line and say that, 'cause from what I remember in my head, it was 2-1. I swear Ricky won the first 2 rounds, but just because he said that, I'm gonna go back and replay that fight on Saturday right before the fight started and just remember, and then text him and tell him what I think when I rewatch it, because I told him I'd rewatch it just for that. Navarro Sterling had a great performance. So did Casey O'Neill. Super good performance there. And then Ignacio Bahamundes and Chase Hooper failed me. I completely failed the best pick of the week, or best bet of the week, technically, with the parlay. Whenever I can't find a single bet with great odds, I do that. And I should have stuck with my heart on that one and went with Alexa Grasso. And then, just running down my list here because there's some big things to talk about. Michael Chiesa last fight. It's good to see him go out on top, but the way they did it was weird. Nico Price, and it was just a weird night. But here's the big thing before we get to the main event. That co-main event, I'm trying to think. I know there's a couple of better knockouts that people are going to say, but for females too, that might be the best female knockout I have ever seen. The sequence was insane. You get put out on your feet. You get choked out to where you're sleeping. Well, she was sleeping the whole time anyway. She wasn't really there before she even hit the ground, because that was such a beautiful, just a beautiful shot. Puts her to sleep, chokes her out, and then the ref grabs her, and her body comes back to, and thinks she's still fighting, goes for a grapple, and the ref just kind of puts her back like this, and she goes out again, and it was nasty. I can't believe the way they kind of showed it on Paramount, but the way they focused in on it, I should say. A lot of times once a fighter goes down and their eyes are open and it's like that in that sequence, they don't really show up for that long. But the Paramount definitely just... So, great ending. Glad Macy's okay. And then Israel Adesanya and Joe Pyfer. Now, Joe Pyfer's got a lot to work on before he takes on any more elite fighters of this middleweight. He is definitely going to come up with one more loss before he fights for a title or gets in the top 5 fully. But he showed it on Saturday. I'm not trying to dog his fight. I can see the holes in his game that certain other fighters are going to take advantage of. But Izzy, bro, I love you. You're one of my favorite fighters of all time, but it's the end of the Israel Adesanya era. And to top that off, we'll take away the draw, because when we're talking about fights, the draws aren't really a win. But if you moneylined Ricky Simone on that side or Adrian Yanez on any of that, you would have lost because of the draw. So Philly Fly Show 6 for 12, unless you want to say 6 for 13 if you count the draw as a loss, but I'm not counting that. I'm counting it as an even. But we are here for UFC Fight Night. Renato Moicano versus Chris Duncan. It's sad they're making teammates fight each other, but hey, I've seen that the last couple weeks here. I got my notes. Let's jump into it. Match like number 13 here. Well, there's 13 legs on this one. We'll jump into it. Match like 13 will start in the lightweight division and we'll end in the lightweight division. We got Kai Kamaka making his return to the UFC versus Dakota Hope. Now, Kai's a negative 170 favorite, whereas Dakota's a plus 132 underdog. I get the way they're kind of dogging Kai because of his first time through the UFC, but this is not a fair matchup. I kind of just had this feeling Kai is going to put on a big show, and that's kind of what this is lining up to. Kai's 3-2 in his last 5. He's 1-2 in the UFC, but then he left, went back to Bellator, went to PFL, or left to PFL and went back to Bellator. I don't know what his whole way that went about with his career, but that's what happened. He's coming off a winning KO, and then you got Dakota Hope, a 1-0 fighter, making their UFC debut and not having a very good background and professionally being only 1-0. It's kind of a weird record. They must have a good background in something else. I couldn't find much on Dakota Hope besides a small amateur record that it was weird. It was just weird. Like I said, Kai Kamaka -170, Hope +132, taking Kai Kamaka to the bank. 3 out of 5 on the confidence level. He can get his hand raised. Match number 12 here. We'll jump to the female side in the flyweight division. Deon Barboza versus Melissa Gatto. Melissa is a +108 underdog, whereas Barboza is a -138 favorite. This is a close matchup on paper, and even on just looking at the two girls fighting. Barboza has a little bit of a gas tank issue, and Melissa, she seems like she goes for 3 rounds, so it's going to be a tough fight for her. I'm picking Barboza. I just think her being good at her grappling background with her striking background is going to be the advantage that even the odds makers give her. But that's going to be her advantage in winning the fight, and she's going to use it to win. 1 out of 5 on the confidence level. She can get her hand raised. Match like number 11 here. Middleweight fight. We get Asmat Bekakov versus Tresean Gore. Tresean is a +440 underdog, and Asmat Bekakov is a -700 favorite. His name is super difficult to say super fast. Asmat, he's 3-2 in his last 5, 2-2 in the UFC, and he's coming off a decision loss, whereas Tresean Gore, hold on, scratch that. Wrong total info there. Asmat is 4-1 in the UFC, 4-1 in his last 5, 2-1 in the UFC. His last fight is coming off a KO loss to Belgori. His counterpart is 2-3 in his last 5, 3-4 in the UFC. And on a 2-fight lose streak. Tresean just has not looked like the same guy from winning the Ultimate Fighter. Actually, he didn't win the Ultimate Fighter. He won on his Ultimate Fighter night and put on such a show that the UFC gave him a contract too. And just Asmat's just too well-rounded for this guy. Tresean's more of a grappler, but then he just has a bad gas tank, and we have not seen Asmat have a bad gas tank yet. So this is a bad matchup for Gore. He's definitely going and losing this fight here. Asmat gets the win and gets his hand raised. 3 out of 5 on the confidence level. He can get his hand raised. Most important thing if you ever do a podcast or talk, guys, flipping water. All right, y'all. Match number 10 here is a bantamweight female fight. We get to see Alex Perez's sister, younger sister, Alice Pereira. Why did I say Perez? Alice Pereira, younger sister of Alex Pereira. Just what am I doing? Versus Haley Kowal. Haley is a -102 pick'em, essentially. Alice, a little bit of a favorite at -125. Alice has very young. She's 20 years old. She is, make sure I have this right so I don't say that wrong. She's 4-1 in her last 5, but 0-1 in her UFC debut. She had a split decision loss. She looked good in that fight, but just you could see there's a little bit of a talent gap between her and Rendon looked good in that fight. And then on the other side, Haley Crowell, she 2-3 in her last 5, 0-2 in the UFC, and on a 2-fight lose streak. She's got to get a win here to stay in the UFC, and I just don't see her fulfilling that. I feel like Alice gets her first W in the UFC. Her striking is very, very, very good, so if Haley wants any way of winning, she's got to take this into a grappling fight. But Alice, I feel like she gets her first win. If she doesn't get her first win, I could see the UFC telling her to go to a smaller promotion for a bit and they re-sign her later. She's definitely going to stay in the UFC. She's definitely got the talent. She just might need the experience. but I think she gets a win on Saturday. 1 out of 5 on a confidence level. She can get her hand raised. Match like number 9 is a crazy return. We get to see Lando Venata return versus Darius Flowers, and even Darius has been on hasn't been in the ring for a long time. The last time Lando Venata was in the ring, it was April 15th of 2023, so that's almost 3 years since he's been in the ring. And then Flowers' last time was in July 13th, 2024, so it's almost been 2 full years for him. Flowers is a plus 196 underdog. Lando Venata, negative 260 favorite. Look, man, it's a hard it's really hard to take that much time off and come back and get a win, especially in the UFC and any MMA promotion. It's hard to take that time off and then come back. Flowers, even in his year and a half, that's a long time. But Flowers has fought more recently, felt probably the ring more recently. I feel like Lando had a bad injury, and then I don't know if the UFC cut him and he just didn't fight again or took time off and then somehow got a contract back. I don't know how that situation played out. But what I do know, Lando, he is 2-3 in his last. He's 2-3 in his last 5. 4-7-2 in the UFC, and then on a 2-fight lose streak. Not looking good there. His counterpart, though, he's 2-3 in his last 5, 0-3 in his UFC fights, and on a 3-fight lose streak. It's kind of hard to pick between them, but I had to go back and watch highlights of Darius Flowers, and I really liked the way he walks forward and actually tries to fight. It's just things happen, people get caught. That's how I hope this fight plays out. I hope it doesn't turn into a big grappling fight, because they say Lando's a wrestler, but I know him more as a striker. I hate when I look at the ESPN thing and it tells me the wrong information. I'm like, I'm pretty sure they have that wrong. So I hope this stays a striking fight. I hope they stay standing up. And if they stay standing up, I think Darius Flowers gets the win. But I'm not very confident on it. 1 out of 5 on a confidence level that you should risk your money on that pick. All right. Flyweight male fight here. Match like number 8. Alessandro Costa versus Stuart Nichols. Stuart Nichols plus 320 underdog. Negative 460 on Costa. And going here, Costa's 2-3 in his last 5. 2-3 in the UFC. And he's coming off a KO loss, whereas his counterpart, he is 3-2 in his last 5. 0-2 in the UFC and on a 2-fight lose streak. So again, both sides needing wins. Nickel needs a win, I think, more than Costa, because Costa has shown that he looks a decent part for the flyweight division. I'm picking Costa with that negative 460. I'm pretty confident. I don't see Stuart Nickel winning this fight. 3 out of 5 on a confidence level. He gets his hand raised. All right, match like number 7. Heavyweight bout, featured prelim bout of the evening. Guilherme Pat versus Thompson Peterson. Now, Guilherme is at negative 113 pick'em. Peterson, negative 113 pick'em. Each side's going to get you money, or decent odds for your money there. Here's what I'll have to say. We have 5-0 for Guilherme in his last 5. 1-0 in the UFC and coming off. I've got to have this written down wrong, guys. I'm not even saying his record. I just know, because I remember looking at Peterson's record, because I had to count it. Peterson's record, 2-3 in his last 5, 2-3 in the UFC, and coming off a KO loss. Pat, it says it's coming off a loss, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a W, and I just wrote L. Fact check that one for me, people, but I'm still picking Guilherme Pat to win. Thomas Peterson has just kind of looked like one of those. It's hard to call him a trash can because he's got a decent win on his belt, but he's just not put it together in the UFC that well. So I'm thinking Guilherme gets a big win on Saturday, but I'm not very confident on it either. Heavyweight fights are always hard to pick because anybody can go to sleep at any time. And if it gets to the ground for certain people, you're not getting back up with those big guys. So 1 out of 5 on the confidence level, like Guilherme Pat gets a W. Now we'll jump to the main card here. We're getting it done. Featherweight bout of the evening, male division. Jose Delano versus Robert Rushala. Now, Rushala is a plus 285 underdog versus Jose, negative 400 favorite. Man. 4-1 in his last 5 for Jose. Making his UFC debut and being on the main card. Big hype. He's coming off the Dana White Contender Series. Now, typically, they come off a win. It says L. I don't believe it's an L. I think I wrote this down. I'm pretty sure I wrote this one down wrong, too. But he's making his UFC debut. He's 4-1 in his last 5. To be on the main card, pretty good. And his counterpart in Robert, 3-2 in his last 5, 0-1 in his UFC debut, and coming off a decision loss. So both these guys are looking for a win here. Robert's got to get a win, probably to stay in the UFC. Jose, on the other hand, making his debut, has got a little bit of slack, but he must have good hype coming out behind him with a negative 400 favorite. I'm going to pick the favorite there. I'm going to ride with the odds makers there, but 1 out of 5 on the comments level, he can get his hand raised. Now, matchup number 5 is another guy making his UFC debut, but he's got some killer hype behind him. Tommy McMillan versus Milano Zecchi. Now, this is a featherweight bout. Tommy is a negative 1,800 favorite. Yes, you heard that right. Negative 1,800. Milano plus 800 on the other side. Tommy is 5-0 in his last 5. He's a 9-0 fighter making his UFC debut. And I think he's the one who has a 17-second win in the Dana White Contender Series, just plowing through his opponent. Milano, on the other hand, over there, he is 3-2 in his last 5, 0-1 in his UFC debut, and coming off that KO loss for his UFC debut. The matchmakers know what they're doing here, setting this up to be a crazy, either a crazy win on one side with a plus 800 or that 1,800. Dude's knocking him out quick. I'm picking Tommy. I'm picking 3 out of 5 on the confidence level just because Zecchini could do it, man. He's anybody can knock out anybody, and they could have too much hype behind him because of this next fight that's on here. I'll explain why people could have too much hype on there. Before I say that, though, Tommy McMillan, like I said, gets a win. Don't even pick against it. I would not risk that plus 800 unless you're doing it on a pure risk there, buddy. All right, matchup number 4, bantamweight bout. This is what the UFC does to you if they know. Wow, I kind of kicked my camera there. Sorry, guys. This is the way they match you up in your first 2 UFC fights. We got Ethan Ewing versus Rafael Esteban. Now, Rafael, that guy is a underdog in this at plus 122. Ethan comes in and beats Matthew Wellmaker last time, and I'm pretty sure Ethan was like a plus 800, just like the fight before, which could happen, but Ethan was not supposed to win that fight against Matthew Wellmaker. That guy took it on short notice, and he knew his boxing was better than Wellmaker, and that was nuts on Ethan's part. He is a negative 156 favorite. Ethan is a 5-0 in his last 5, 1-0 in his UFC, and he beat Matthew Wellmaker in his debut. His counterpart is 5-0 in his last 5, 3-0 in the UFC, but he's a 14-0 undefeated fighter, and as an underdog, that is nuts to me. But if this fight stays on its feet, there's no way Rafael beats Ewing staying on the feet. The only way he can is if he can land kicks. And I don't see that happening with that boxing and that power with those shots. Rafael's in for a deep fight here. I'm picking Ewing. I think that kid's got it, and I think he might be a future top 15 fighter in the bantamweight division. Like I said, though, 1 out of 5 on the confidence level because Rafael is no slouch. If it goes to the ground, could be over. Just saying. All right, match number 3 is a light heavyweight bout. Don't let this guy's record fool you. When I get to his name, we got Abdul Rakham Yankayev versus Brenson Ribeiro. Ribeiro is a plus 900 underdog. Abdul is a negative 2,500 favorite. Yes, another crazy odd one here. Ribeiro has been in some just nutty fights. He's fought some elite fighters coming up as a prospect. Go look at his resume and his wins, even his losses. Every fight he's been in is a banger fight and just a perfect matchup. And I think the odds makers did it again here. I don't think he should be a plus 900 guy, but when you got negative 2,500 on the other side, yeah, I get it. I get it. But I'm picking Abdul to win, but I'm saying do not. You can risk a plus 900 on your money. You can risk it on a single pick, a quick $20. It's worth. It'll be the best $20 you ever spent if he wins. But if you lose $20. It'd be worth it. Especially Ribeiro. He's got power in his hands. He can fight, and it always is a banger fight. So we'll be in for it. But I'm picking Abdul to win. I just think he's a better fighter. If he sticks to his game plan, he'll win that fight. Definitely. All right. Co-main event of the evening. I skipped the notes on that one because there's not much notes besides what's in my head with those fighters. I really, really like that fight, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. But the co-main event of the evening is a strawweight bout. We get the third-ranked Verna Jambroda versus the seventh-ranked Tabitha Ricci, a.k.a. Baby Shark. Baby Shark is a plus 102 underdog, whereas Verna is a negative 130 favorite. Look, man, Verna took a lot out of her in that title fight, and to get back in there this quick, it's good on her part to see if she can get back in there and get back to a title shot again, especially if the title changes here, if Weili versus Mackenzie Dern, whoever wins that fight in the future here, because that's what all these girls are fighting behind. Tabitha, Baby Shark, though, she's got crazy good striking for a girl who's supposed to not have striking, supposed to be just a grappler. Same thing on Verna's side, though. She's got good power, but her strikes aren't beautifully put together. Unlike Baby Shark, she mixes them well together. All right, Verna, she is 4-1 in her last 5, 8-4 in the UFC, and coming off the championship loss to Mackenzie Dern. Tabitha Ricci, 3-2 in her last 5, 7-3 in the UFC, and coming off a KO win against Amanda Ribas. That is not a slouch win. That's a big win on Baby Shark's part. I think Baby Shark's going to be too much for Tabitha. I think Baby Shark's going to be too much for Verna. Verna, like I said in the last, what I just said, she took a lot out of her in that fight. If Baby Shark lands and hurts her and it goes to the ground, Baby Shark knows what she's doing and will not get submitted and will probably win because she'll get the advantage position. Verna, when she gets hurt, she likes to go to her back and recover / get a submission. It ain't gonna happen against Baby Shark. Baby Shark gets her probably a decision win is probably what I'd go with there. 1 out of 5 on the confidence level. She can get her hand raised. And we get to the main event of the evening, boys and girls. I do not like that the UFC is making 2 guys fighting in the same camp. I mean, they're literally in the same camp all the way through this, and all of a sudden they get the call that they got to fight each other. That sucks. I don't like that. We get the 10th ranked Moicano putting his ranking up against Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan's a negative 186 favorite. Money Moicano is a plus 144 underdog. Money Moicano did not look good in his last fight. Just did not look like it. I don't know if it was a bad weight cut, what it was. It just didn't look like the normal Money Moicano. I don't think we see that here in this fight. Money Moicano's 3-2 in his last 5. 12-7 in the UFC, and coming off 2-fight lose streak. He got put up in that championship fight, and he should never been in that championship fight. And then to lose to Dariush the way he did, that was just bad. So he's got to get a big win here to stay in the money making there and beat Money Moicano. His counterpart on the other side, Chris Duncan, is 4-1 in his last 5, 6-1 in the UFC, and on a 4-fight win streak. I love Chris's game. I love Chris's attitude, but Money Moicano knows you in the ring, and you know him. This should be a good fight if they actually fight. If they don't actually fight it out, and they kind of do what Patterson and that fight just happened a couple weeks ago. MVP. If it plays out like Patterson MVP, we're not in for a good show, but if they actually know how to fight each other and they go in for it, someone could go to sleep here and it could be a good night. I'm going to stay on the plus money side. I'm taking Money Moicano. 1 out of 5 on the confidence level. He gets his hand raised, but I just I just have this inkling that Money gets a nice shot and puts him out because he knows him well enough that he's not going to be scared to go to the ground with him. So I feel like this fight stays standing up, and if it stays standing up, I like Money Moicano side. But if it's if it's the same guy that fought last time in Money Moicano, nah, it'll be a bad night. We'll see within the first couple minutes of that fight, and you'll figure out if you're on the right side or the wrong side there. All right, Philly Fly Show checking out here. Shout out to Right Way Production Studios, and we'll see y'all next week for another show. Putting out content like crazy. Let's get it. Peace out, y'all.